Do you think you will still have the love that you have for cars had it not been your parents introducing you to that? Do you think you would have found your way to muscle cars had it not been for your parents?
I'll go first. I don't think so. I think that we're kind of a product of our environment. I think definitely growing up around it, it exposed me to it at an early age. But at the same time, you know, I don't know. I'd say yes, but then I know people that have no family members that are into cars, but I guess they got into high school and they had a friend that introduced them to it. So I think it just all depends on who you're around. You know, that old saying where they say, you know, you're only as good as your friends are. So, you know, if your friends are car guys, then you're more than likely going to eventually be a car guy. But I would definitely say my family definitely influenced me to be a car person. Like I said, I can remember my first truck I got, me and Dad were out there, you know, I got it a whole year early so I could modify it.
Let's go.
So I was 15 when I got the truck. I still had my learner's permit. Dad bought me the truck. And I was actually already modifying it. And stuff
15?
At 15, yeah.
Sweet.
I was lucky. My grandmother, when she passed away, she had a trust that she left me about $7,000 when she passed away, and I was able to use that money. Because when I started driving was when we had the recession. So I was very fortunate because at the time my parents were on hard times. So I was very fortunate that I had that a little bit of money to be able to buy a car.
Nice.
But yeah, that's how I got mine. But ever since then, I've bought all my own cars. I've never had one bought. The first one was that one.
The freebie.
Yeah, the
one
freebie.
freebie,
The freebie.
For me, absolute affirmative, Calvin. You know, if it weren't, you know, for my father's influence and my brother's influence, who knows where my interests would have gone. I remember I was 11 years old, and my dad and mom took me on a trip to Europe, which for an 11-year-old is a pretty special occasion.
Yeah.
But what really made it special and memorable for my life was I didn't realize at the time. We went to Stuttgart, Germany, and my dad took possession of a Porsche from the Porsche factory and spent 3 weeks in Europe on the Autobahn in a 911. And the memory that I'll never forget was we were 3 or 4 days into it and the car had been broken in at that point. Wow. And my mom was asleep in the front seat and I was riding in the back. And with luggage, by the way, which is, I don't know how we did it, but I remember my mother waking up and looking around and just enjoying the sights as the sides of the road were flying by. And then she quietly looked over the speedometer and saw we were doing 130. And the flip out was unforgettable. And I think in that moment, I began my love affair with automobiles.
Wow.
That's a good one to do.
That's a good one. 130 on the Autobahn in a Porsche 911.
Yeah.
That experience is crazy.
It was pretty remarkable.
Wow.
And as a kid, I was enjoying it all.
Yeah, we got to remember this ain't the Porsche of today. This was probably what year Porsche was it?
This was a 1969.
Wow.
Yeah, so we're talking. If any of you at home have drove an older Porsche like that, I mean, we're not talking about the Porsche. So I'm surprised she didn't notice it earlier.
The vibration.
They're just not the cars they are today. I mean,
Well, and I think what relaxed her into it is we were flying along. You see the cars next to you
they're going all the same speed.
that are pretty much going the same speed as we were at the time. So it was no different than being on the 405 in Southern California at the time.
Yeah.
Wow.
But when she realized, you know, the speed we were going, that's what flipped her out. I'll tell you what was also remarkable is you learn real quick when you're on the Autobahns in Europe and you see flashing lights coming up on
Get out of
you,
the way.
you better get out of the way, and you better get out of the way pretty quick.
Now, did you know what you were in at that time when your dad was driving?
Not so much, but that's when it all began to come out. Yeah.
Wow.
That's cool.
I didn't have an appreciation for how remarkable that opportunity was until I was a little older. Yeah.
That's super cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
What about you, Steve?
For me, I'm the odd guy out. I mean, my dad was not into cars at all, and kind of my hero of my life was my grandfather. He was not really a car guy. I mean, he has this car that's sitting in the back over there, and not really a car guy neither. I think he had 2 cars the entire time that he was alive. So for me, it just kind of festered up. My dad's friend would come over, and he had the first C3 Corvette that I ever saw, black with pop-up headlights in the 80s. And, you know, that was just the coolest thing ever. So that really kind of piqued my interest, and then of course with the TV shows that were going on, so it just kind of grew on its own, and I think that I think I would have found it no matter what.
Now, I know you mentioned the drag strip. Were you on it a lot at that time?
Yeah, when I wasn't street racing, yeah, we were doing a lot of that stuff. Yeah, because that was a good place to test it out and really kind of see, are you making any difference? And kind of way before, this is kind of the first OBD1, when computers were just kind of taking over, and you could start to kind of tweak around with stuff. And we were doing 4-cylinder turbo cars, and we're competing with V8s, and that was a big thing back then.
How long did you stay with that? I know you was younger.
I'd say that was probably when I was 14 to 18, and then I started to get into more V8 cars, Mustangs, stuff like that.
So it seems like that age around 13, 14, 15, that's when you really get that urge, like you can understand and you can realize what it is. As opposed to being younger, you just know I'm in something crazy fast that looks amazing. And you get older, you be like, okay, I know what that is.
Well, I think that age around 14, you're getting to that age where you're real close to getting your driver's license.
Yes.
You're hitting middle school. The older guys at school that have the cool cars. And to me, I think, a car is like, cars have been around for a while now. And I think it's kind of one of those things where it's like in our DNA, kind of like how the horse, like you ever been around a horse and you just have that weird feeling around a horse? I think that's just in us because we use them for so long for transportation. I think it's just in our DNA to feel that attachment to horses and dogs and stuff. I think it's the same with cars. I think, a car to me was not just transportation. It was freedom. It was fun. It was all
a chance to get some chicks.
I thought that was going to help me, but it didn't help me at all. I was like, hey, a cool car, I'll get all the girls. No, it didn't help at all.
It doesn't work like that. You soon find out.
Yeah.
But you think it is, especially at that
But
age.
the high school guys really, you see that cool kid at high school, he gets it and everybody's just surrounded by his car when he comes and when he goes. It's like, it's crazy. So
yeah, and then you always had the guys in high school that were, driving Corvettes, and one chick had like a Porsche there. You're just like, I remember thinking when I was getting my driver's license, Dad, what's up? Am I going to get a car? He's like, oh, you want a car? He's like, yeah, you need to get a job. And then he told me this, which I think taught me in life. He goes, I tell you what, he goes, I'll match whatever you save up. He goes, I'll match it and we'll go buy a car.
Nice.
The first paycheck at McDonald's, $250 for about a $500 car.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh
see,
my
now
God,
if
we
I
was
was
just
smart,
talking about that.
I would have waited out. But
it's good. It's good that your father did. I think it teaches. I think a lot of kids that I see, especially when I was growing up, a lot of my friends, not a lot of them, but a lot of them got things free. And like I said, my parents weren't like that. I kind of had to work for a little bit of everything that I had. And I definitely think it teaches you to set goals and work towards things. You were talking about breaking transmissions. I remember I had I couldn't afford I've always been a V8 guy, but I couldn't afford the insurance on a V8 at 18 years old. So I had a Civic hatchback with a GSR swap.
I remember those.
So I'm a little bit of a JDM guy too. And I remember I used to tear the transmission up in that because those motors rev out to 8,500 RPM, and I was banging the gears as hard as I could. I broke shift forks. I broke the differential in a transmission. I'd break axles. And I remember I broke like 2 transmissions within like a 4-month period. And there was literally 2 months where I had to bum rides to work because my parents would not pay for it. I remember I was doing valet at the time, and I opened up my sock drawer and I'd have a wad of cash. And I had to save up like $1,200, and back then,
for a transmission,
$1,200 when you're like, 20 years old, and I have no car, and I'm like literally picking up extra shifts trying to do, and I did all my work back then. So I had the car lifted up in the garage. Luckily, I was very lucky that when my dad bought the house, he had a bass boat and was real big into bass fishing, so he wanted a detached garage so he could keep the boat in there. So we were very lucky. We had a big detached garage, and my dad's now converted that into like a shop. And he'll buy these cars and fix them up and stuff. But I always had a nice garage with tools and stuff, so I was very fortunate with that. And I had a good friend, Tim, that was a certified Honda mechanic, and I became good. I was friends with his brother, but because I was into the Honda stuff and I was always doing things, like I would pay him to do little things, but I would be like, look, I'm gonna pay you, but I want to watch. I want you to show me. And that's what kind of got me into like fixing my own stuff. And like, you build confidence that way. And really to be a good mechanic, you really just need to have confidence and good tools. If you have the right tools and confidence, you can pretty much do it. There's a couple things you need to do where you need a partner to hold something up while you're doing something, but you just got to have the confidence and have a good set of tools, and you can do it, man. It's not hard.